Hello everyone! Today we are doing a speed training to practice saying two verbs in a row in French quickly. And above all, to avoid the traps that sound too bad in French. And if you have tried everything, like podcasts, apps, listening programs, and you can understand a bit of French when you have time to think. But the moment someone speaks to you, your brain freezes. This video is for you. And usually it's not that you haven't learned enough, but you have never trained your brain to respond under pressure. If you have listened to podcasts at your speed, paused, replayed, absorbed grammar for hours, that doesn't train you to produce French sentences in 3 seconds. Because in real conversation, you don't have a pause button. So that's your brain, untrained for speed, that pauses. Because you have knowledge without speed. But that changes today. In this video, you are going to make sentences under time pressure in French, but here in a safe environment. So we'll start with simple sentences that you will make in French with one verb or with two verbs, like I want to work. And first under a moderate time pressure. And then we're going to increase the time pressure and make more and more complex sentences. And this builds the automatic reflexes that hours of listening never touches. So after this video, you will produce these French structures without thinking. So if you're ready, let's start building the right reflexes. So first, let's start with really simple sentences. Let's warm up with the verb for to work first. How do you say just to work in French? To work. Travailler. So to work relates to a travel in French. So travailler. Now can you conjugate to work? Let's say I work. Can you just say I work? Je travaille. So here that's quite simple. Travailler is an ER verb, and in present tense, for most pronouns, when you want to conjugate ER verbs, you just remove the ending, the E ending. So here, travailler becomes travaille. Je travaille. Then, what's the verb for to want in French? Just to want. Vouloir. So, vouloir, to want relates to a volunteer in French, or voluntary, voluntarily. So, vouloir. But here, vouloir is an irregular verb. And here we're going to use it in present tense with singular pronouns. So, vouloir becomes veux. So how do you say I want? Just I want. Je veux. And that's it. So in this video, for want, we're going to use veux only. So here, I want, je veux. But then, how do you say I want to work? Just that. Just I want to work. Je veux travailler. And this is the point of this video. Here what's really important is that the second verb is in the infinitive. You always conjugate the first verb and then the second verb is in the infinitive form. So in English you say to work. So in French you say travailler with an E sound. Just before we conjugated to work, we said I work. Je travaille. So we removed the E or the E sound. But here when you say I want to work, it's really important that you say E at the end. Travailler. Je veux travailler because you're using the infinitive this time. So here it may sound a bit simple, but then you see that it's not always obvious. And that's what we're going to practice. So then, let's pick another verb. The verb for to wait. How do you say to wait in French? Just to wait. Attendre. So it really looks like to attend in English, but attendre really means to wait. Attendre. And then let's say you want to wait. With the informal you, how do you say you informal want to wait? Tu veux attendre. And that's it. So here, for you want to wait, you said to wait at the end, so attendre. Tu veux attendre. Then let's say you wait, just that, with the informal you. How do you say you informal wait? Tu attends. And here, you're conjugating the verb for to wait. So you don't say the dr sound at the end. It's just attends. So for most verbs in French, when you want to use them to conjugate them in the present tense, for lots of French verbs, you just remove the ending with singular pronouns, and that makes the conjugation. So that's what we are going to do here in this video with the verb for travailler, to work, and to wait, attendre. So here when you say you wait, you just say tu attends. And then let's say we wait with the casual we or the spoken we. How do you say we wait? On attend. And that's it. So same principle, you remove the dr sound at the end because here we are conjugating attendre, so we say attend. On attend. With the casual we. Here it's a spoken French video, so we're going to only use the on to say we. And when you use on and just after the following word starts with a vowel, you have to pronounce the N of on. So we say on attend. Then let's say the verb for can. But let's say the infinitive form of can in French. How do you say just can? Pouvoir. That relates to power. Pouvoir. And to conjugate pouvoir, you conjugate pouvoir exactly as to want. Vouloir. So let's say we can. How do you say just we can? On peut. So with that E sound. But here just after the P of pouvoir. So peut. On peut. And here, as just after the on, there is a consonant, a P, so not a vowel, you don't pronounce the N of on. Just on peut. But now, can you say we can wait? Just that, just we can wait. On peut attendre. And here it's very important that you say the dr sound at the end of attendre, because that's the second verb. You conjugate the first verb and then you have attendre. Then you have the infinitive for the second verb. So attendre. On peut attendre. And here in English, you don't hear that it's the infinitive. When you say we can wait, you don't say we can to wait. So you may forget that you need the infinitive in French. So here is the trick to remember that you need the infinitive after can. In French, can is exactly the same as to be able to. To say to be able and can, in both cases in French, you use the verb pouvoir. So when you hear we can wait, you can think we are able to wait. You can replace can by able to. So we are able to wait. And in this case, you hear the to wait in English, in we are able to wait. So that's how you can remember that you need the infinitive to say to wait in French. So attendre with the dr sound at the end. Otherwise, it sounds like we are able wait. So you hear that in English, it doesn't sound very good. So that's why also in French, you have to say the infinitive. So on peut attendre. And now can you say he can work? Just that, just he can work. Il peut travailler. And that's it. So same principle. You need the infinitive travailler because it's the second verb. It's like saying he is able to work. So with the to work, that is travailler with the e sound at the end. Don't forget the e sound at the end when you say he is able to work, because otherwise it sounds he is able work. And you don't want that. So let's say il peut travailler. So now we are going to do a first series. I'm going to say 10 sentences in English in a row, 10 small blocks of sentences, like we just did. So each time I say a small block in English, then just after you say it in French. Then I say it in French. And then we do the next one. I say a sentence in English, you say it in French, I say it in French, etc. So really focus on what you have to say. If there's only one verb, you conjugate the verb, but anyway, you always conjugate the first verb. And if there is a second verb, you have to say it in the infinitive form. That's the most important, that's the point of this video. So get ready. 3, 2, 1. How do you say? You informal work. Tu travailles. She wants to work. Elle veut travailler. I can wait. Je peux attendre. We wait. On attend. You informal work. Tu travailles. He wants to work. Il veut travailler. I can work. Je peux travailler. He waits. Il attend. She can wait. Elle peut attendre. We can work. On peut travailler. And that's it. So this was the first series. And that's very important that we hear the infinitive for the second verb. Even if in English you don't necessarily hear that it's the infinitive. Like when you say he can. That you need to replace by he is able to. And in this case, you also hear the infinitive in English. So now I propose you to even reinforce this reflex. Conjugation versus infinitive. So let's do another series, but this time faster. So it's the same principle, but now that you're warmed up, let's do it a bit faster. So with less time to say the sentence in French. But still really focus on the idea that you mean. Really focus on the conjugation and then on the infinitive if there is a second verb. That's the most important. So let's do it. So get ready. 3, 2, 1. How do you say? You informal work. Tu travailles. She wants to work. Elle veut travailler. I can wait. Je peux attendre. We wait. On attend. You informal work. Tu travailles. He wants to work. Il veut travailler. I can work. Je peux travailler. He waits. Il attend. She can wait. Elle peut attendre. We can work. On peut travailler. And that's it. And do you notice what's going on in your head right now? You're starting to know instantly whether to say travailler or travaille, attendre or attend. And this is the difference between consuming French and producing French. And you can listen to hours of podcasts. It won't build this reflex. Speed training does. And if you want to keep training these reflexes across every French structures that you need to speak with confidence, I have a free masterclass in description that you can join after this video. But now, let's keep building quick French sentences. And let's do more complex sentences. Let's introduce the negation in French. So let's say, for instance, I don't work. Let's start simply, but with a negative sentence. So quickly, to make a negative statement in French, you use pas. That's the mark of the negation. That pas always goes after the verb, after the first verb. That's very important. So here in I don't work, there is only one verb. Actually, in English, there are two verbs because the don't is a verb, but there is only one idea, and that's the idea that counts, the idea of working. So when you say I don't work, you say the verb for to work in French, and then you say pas. So how do you say I don't work? Je travaille pas. And that's it. This is a spoken French course, so there is no ne in spoken French. Just pas, just after the first verb. So here, je travaille pas. And how do you say I don't want? Just I don't want. Je veux pas. Same principle with the pas just after the first verb. Here there's only one verb, so je veux pas. But now, how do you say I don't want to work? Je veux pas travailler. So the pas is always just after the first verb. And that's it. That never changes. So first, je veux pas, and then you need the infinitive to work, travailler, because it's the second verb. So, je veux pas travailler. So here we are not talking about composed tenses, like the passé composé, where here it's a bit different, but for most tenses, the second verb is always in the infinitive. Then can you say, you informal don't want to wait? Tu veux pas attendre. So here again, the pas is just after the first verb, and then you have attendre. So we really need to hear the dr sound at the end of attendre. Because it's the infinitive. So, tu veux pas attendre. Then let's say, you informal, don't wait. Tu attends pas. And that's it. So here there's only one verb. The pas goes just after the first verb. When there's only one verb, it goes after the verb. So just after attends. Tu attends pas. And that's it. There's nothing after. So sometimes you hear the pas at the end of the sentence when there's only one verb. Tu attends pas. And when there are two verbs, you don't hear the pas at the end because then there's the second verb. But that's okay, that's fine. That's how French works. So here, you don't wait is just tu attends pas. Now let's say we can wait. Just we can wait. On peut attendre. So here it's simple, now you get it. Here there's no negation, just we can, on peut, and then the second verb in the infinitive form, like in we are able to wait. So we hear the dr sound at the end of attendre. On peut attendre. And now can you say, we can't wait. So in the negative form, we can't wait. On peut pas attendre. And that's it. And that's still the same principle. We can't, on peut pas, or we are not able, but then to wait. So attendre in the infinitive form. On peut pas attendre. So now let's do our next series. So these kind of sentences, sometimes with one verb or with two verbs, and sometimes with the negation. So with pas just after the first verb. So get ready. 3, 2, 1. How do you say? You informal work. Tu travailles. She doesn't want to work. Elle veut pas travailler. I can wait. Je peux attendre. We don't wait. On n'attend pas. You informal don't work. Tu travailles pas. He doesn't want to work. Il veut pas travailler. I can't work. Je peux pas travailler. He waits. Il attend. She can wait. Elle peut attendre. We can't work. On peut pas travailler. And that's it. So here again, you reinforced a little bit more your reflexes in French. So congratulations. But now let's go a bit further. This was complex sentences. Short sentences, but a bit complex. Would you like to do it even faster now? If you like it, or if you feel that it's useful for you, let's do it a bit faster. So let's do a next series with small pieces of sentences, with one verb, two verbs, and sometimes with the negation, but with a shorter timer. So get ready. 3, 2, 1. How do you say? You informal work. Tu travailles. She doesn't want to work. Elle veut pas travailler. I can wait. Je peux attendre. We don't wait. On n'attend pas. You informal don't work. Tu travailles pas. He doesn't want to work. Il veut pas travailler. I can't work. Je peux pas travailler. He waits. Il attend. She can wait. Elle peut attendre. We can't work. On peut pas travailler. And that's it. And you feel what happened in your brain. You practiced switching between conjugated verbs and infinitives fast. And now you're catching the difference under time pressure. And that's not theory, that's real. That's your brain building reflexes. And if you have spent years of listening, of trying to learn French through listening, I mean podcasts, audio courses, you know that all that listening never trained you to produce French sentences under pressure. You need to practice with a smart practice. That's why I created a free masterclass. It's a 4-hour training of guided speaking sessions and speed training sessions. that build the automatic reflexes that you need to stop freezing. So you won't listen passively. You will practice producing sentences until responding in French becomes automatic. You have the link in description to sign up. You felt yourself improve just now. So do you want to keep building? You just need the right practice. This is the moment where everything can change. I see you in the masterclass.